still remember the day my whole life changed. It did not happen with a loud crash or a screaming fight. It happened with a phone call. A phone call that came on a Tuesday afternoon, right in the middle of me folding laundry. The doctor said my name, and then he said the word no one ever wants to hear. I sat there on the edge of my bed, holding the phone so tight that my fingers turned white. The doctor kept talking, but I could not hear the words anymore. All I could hear was my own heart beating in my ears. I needed someone to hold me. I needed someone to tell me that everything was going to be okay. So I called my husband. I called the man who promised to love me in sickness and in health. He did not pick up the first time, or the second time. When he finally answered, his voice sounded far away, like he was already gone even though he was still living in my house. I told him what the doctor said. I tried to keep my voice steady, but it cracked in the middle. I told him I needed him to come home. I told him I was scared. There was a long silence on the other end. Then he said, "I can't right now. I have things to do." That was the moment I realized something I did not want to believe. He had already left me. He just had not walked out the door yet. His body was still in our home, but his heart had packed its bags a long time ago. I hung up the phone and looked around our bedroom. The laundry was still half folded. The sun was still coming through the window. Everything looked normal, but nothing would ever be normal again. That phone call did not just change my health. It showed me the truth about my marriage. And the truth was this: when I needed him most, he chose to walk away. To understand what happened that day, I have to take you back. Way back. Back to when we first met. Back to when I still believed in forever. His name was Mark. I met him at a small diner on the edge of town. I was 22 years old, working as a waitress, trying to save enough money to go back to school. He came in every morning for coffee. Same time, same seat, same order. At first, I did not think much of him. He was quiet, kept to himself. But after a few weeks, he started staying longer. He would wait until my shift slowed down, then he would ask me how my day was going. Little things at first, nothing too serious. But I was young, and I was lonely. My parents had moved to another state after I finished high school. I stayed behind because I thought I could make it on my own. But making it on your own is harder than it looks. There were nights I ate peanut butter sandwiches for dinner because I could not afford anything else. Mark made me feel seen. He made me feel like I mattered. He would bring me small gifts, nothing expensive, just little things he thought I would like. A book he had read, a flower from someone's garden, a note folded into a tiny square that said, "Thinking of you." We started dating, and 6 months later, he asked me to marry him. He did not get down on one knee with a ring. He just looked at me one night while we were watching television and said, "I think we should do this forever." I said yes, because I wanted to believe in forever. I wanted to believe that someone could stay. Our wedding was small. Just a few friends, a rented room at the community center, and a cake that cost more than I wanted to spend. My parents came back for it. My mother cried. My father shook Mark's hand and told him to take care of me. Mark promised he would, and I believed him. The first few years were good. Not perfect, but good. We had a small apartment with thin walls and a landlord who never fixed the heat. But we were young, and we were in love, and that was supposed to be enough. We had our first child, a boy we named Jacob. Then 2 years later, we had our daughter, Emma. Those were the busy years, the years of diapers and midnight feedings and never enough sleep. Mark worked long hours at a warehouse. I stayed home with the kids. I thought we were building something, a family, a future, a life together. But looking back now, I see things I did not see then. I see how Mark started coming home later and later. I see how he stopped asking about my day. I see how he would sit on his phone instead of talking to me. Small things, things I told myself were not important. We moved to a bigger house when Jacob started school. A real house with a yard and a porch and a kitchen big enough for all of us. I thought the house would fix things. I thought if we had more space, we would have more room for us. But space does not fix a marriage. Only 2 people can fix a marriage. And somewhere along the way, Mark stopped trying. He stopped holding my hand. He stopped looking at me when I talked. He stopped saying my name like it meant something. I told myself he was just tired. I told myself every marriage goes through this. I told myself that if I just loved him harder, he would come back to me. But you cannot love someone into loving you back. I wish someone had told me that sooner. The problems did not start all at once. They came slowly, like water dripping through a crack in the ceiling. At first, you barely notice. Then one day, you look up and the whole wall is wet. It started with the silence. Mark would come home from work and barely say 2 words to me. I would ask him how his day was, and he would say, "Fine," without looking up from his phone. I would tell him something funny the kids did, and he would nod like he was not really listening. I tried everything to get his attention. I cooked his favorite meals. I bought new clothes. I planned little surprises like leaving notes in his lunchbox or renting movies he wanted to see, but nothing worked. He was there, but he was not there. Then came the criticism. Small comments at first. He said I put too much salt in the food. He said I spent too much money at the grocery store. He said I was too loud when I laughed. Each comment by itself did not seem like a big deal, but they added up. Day after day, week after week. I started to shrink. I stopped laughing as loud. I stopped cooking the way I liked. I stopped being myself because I thought maybe if I changed enough, he would love me again. The kids noticed too. Jacob was about 10 when he asked me one night, "Why doesn't Dad eat dinner with us anymore?" I told him Dad was busy, but the truth was, Mark had started eating in front of the television. He did not want to sit at the table with us anymore. Emma was younger, only 8. She would run to the door when Mark came home, yelling, "Daddy, Daddy." Most nights, he would pat her on the head and walk right past her. She would stand there with her arms still open, waiting for a hug that never came. That broke my heart more than anything else. I could handle him pulling away from me, but watching him pull away from our children was something I could not understand. I tried to talk to him about it. I remember one night, after the kids were in bed, I sat down next to him on the couch. I turned off the television and said, "Mark, we need to talk." He sighed like I was asking him to do something impossible. I said, "I feel like you're not here anymore. Even when you're home, you're somewhere else. The kids miss you. I miss you." He looked at me with an expression I had never seen before. It was not anger. It was not sadness. It was something colder. He said, "Maybe you're just asking for too much." I did not know what to say to that. Asking my husband to be present in our marriage felt like the bare minimum. But he made me feel like I was being unreasonable, like I was the problem. That was when I started to doubt myself. Maybe I was asking for too much. Maybe every marriage felt this way after 15 years. Maybe I was just being dramatic. I stopped bringing it up after that. I stopped trying to fix things. I just put my head down and kept going. I took care of the kids. I kept the house clean. I made the meals. I did everything I was supposed to do, and I told myself that was enough. But it was not enough, and deep down I knew it. Then came the nights he did not come home at all. The first time it happened, he said he had to work late. The second time, he said he went out with friends. The third time, he did not give a reason. He just walked in the next morning like nothing had happened. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to shake him and ask him where he had been. But I did not, because I was scared of the answer. I was scared he would say something I could not take back. So I stayed quiet. I kept folding the laundry. I kept making the dinners. I kept smiling for the kids. I kept pretending that everything was fine. But everything was not fine, and the cracks were getting bigger every single day. The phone call came on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were my laundry days. The whole house smelled like soap and fabric softener. I had just put a new load in when my phone rang. I almost did not answer it. I was tired, and I did not feel like talking to anyone. But something made me pick it up. Something I cannot explain. It was my doctor's office. The receptionist said the doctor wanted to speak with me directly. That should have been my first warning. Doctors do not call you themselves unless something is wrong. The doctor came on the line. He had a kind voice, the kind of voice you want to hear when you are scared. He said my name gently, like he was preparing me for something. He said the tests had come back, and then he said the word. Cancer. I do not remember everything he said after that. Something about treatment, something about next steps, something about being strong, but my mind had already left the room. I was sitting on my bed, staring at the laundry basket, trying to understand how my life had changed in 10 seconds. I was 47 years old. I had 2 children. I had a husband who barely looked at me, and now I had cancer. The first person I wanted to tell was Mark, not because I thought he would comfort me, but because he was supposed to be my person. That is what marriage means, right? You go through the hard things together. I called him. He did not pick up. I called again. He did not pick up. I called a 3rd time, and this time he answered. His voice sounded annoyed, like I was bothering him. I said, "Mark, I need you to come home." He said, "I'm busy. What is it?" I took a deep breath. I said, "The doctor called. I have cancer." There was silence. I waited for him to say something, anything. I waited for him to say he was sorry. I waited for him to say he was on his way. I waited for him to say we would get through this together. But he did not say any of those things. He said, "I can't right now. I have things to do." And then he hung up. I sat there for a long time. The sun was still shining through the window. The laundry was still half folded. The world was still moving like nothing had happened. But inside me, something had broken. Something I did not know how to fix. He did not come home that night, or the next night. When he finally walked through the door 3 days later, he did not ask about the doctor. He did not ask how I was feeling. He did not ask what the treatment plan was. He just walked past me like I was a piece of furniture and went straight to the bedroom. That was the moment I knew, not suspected, not wondered. Knew he was not going to be there for me. He had already left. He just had not told me yet. I went to my first appointment alone. I sat in the waiting room surrounded by couples holding hands, and I was the only one by myself. The nurse called my name, and I stood up and walked back to the exam room alone. The doctor asked if I had someone to help me through the treatment. I said yes, even though it was a lie. I did not want him to feel sorry for me. The treatment started 2 weeks later. Chemotherapy. The nurses told me I would lose my hair. They told me I would feel tired. They told me to rest and eat well and take care of myself. I went home and told Mark what the doctor said. He was sitting on the couch watching television. He did not look at me when I spoke. He just nodded and said, "Okay." Not "I'm sorry," not "how can I help," not "I love you," just "okay." The first round of chemo hit me hard. I could not keep food down. I could barely get out of bed. The kids were scared. Jacob was 16 by then, old enough to understand what was happening. He started making dinner every night. He started driving Emma to school. He stepped up in ways a teenager should not have to. Emma was 14. She would crawl into bed with me and hold my hand. She would read to me when I was too tired to open my eyes. She would tell me stories about her day, even though I could barely listen. Mark was still there in the house, but he was not there for me. He slept in the guest room. He ate his meals alone. He left in the morning and came back late at night. We were strangers living under the same roof. I remember one night I was throwing up in the bathroom. I was on my knees, holding onto the toilet, crying because I was so tired and so scared and so alone. Mark was in the living room. He could hear me. I know he could hear me. He did not get up. He did not come to check on me. He just sat there, watching television like nothing was happening. That was the night I stopped hopping. I stopped hopping he would change. I stopped hopping he would love me again. I stopped hopping he would be the husband I needed him to be. I cried on that bathroom floor until there were no tears left. And then I got up, washed my face, and went back to bed. Alone. The months that followed were the hardest of my life. The chemo took everything from me. My hair, my energy, my appetite, my sense of who I was. I looked in the mirror and did not recognize the woman staring back at me. But something else happened during those months. Something I did not expect. I started to get stronger, not in my body, but in my heart. When Mark would not help me, I learned to help myself. When Mark would not drive me to appointments, I learned to drive myself. When Mark would not hold my hand, I learned to hold my own. The kids were my light. Jacob never complained about cooking or cleaning or taking care of his sister. He just did what needed to be done. Emma would come home from school every day and sit with me. She would tell me about her friends, her teachers, her dreams. She made me remember why I wanted to live. My sister, Diane, came to stay with us for a while. She lived 3 states away, but when she heard what was happening, she got in her car and drove straight through the night. She showed up on my doorstep with a suitcase and a bag of groceries and said, "I'm not leaving until you're better." Diane was the one who took me to my appointments. She was the one who held my hair back when I got sick. She was the one who sat with me in the dark when I could not sleep. She was the one who told me it was okay to be scared, okay to be angry, okay to cry. Mark did not like Diane being there. He said she was in the way. He said she was meddling. He said she made him uncomfortable. I did not care what he thought anymore. For the first time in years, I did not care. One night after Diane had gone to bed, Mark came into my room. He stood in the doorway and looked at me. I was sitting up in bed, wrapped in a blanket, too tired to even watch television. He said, "We need to talk." I said, "So talk." He hesitated. Then he said, "I don't think I can do this." I knew what he meant, but I made him say it anyway. "Do what?" I asked. He looked at the floor. "This, the sickness, the appointments, all of it, I don't think I'm built for this." I should have been angry. I should have screamed at him. I should have thrown something at his head. But I did not have the energy for anger anymore. All I had was a quiet, tired sadness. I said, "So you're leaving?" He said, "I think it's better for both of us." I almost laughed. Better for both of us. Nothing about this was better for me. He was not leaving for me. He was leaving for himself because he was too weak to stay, because he was too scared to watch me suffer, because he was too selfish to put someone else first. But I did not say any of that. I just nodded and said, "Okay." He left the next morning. He packed a bag, walked out the front door, and did not look back. The kids were at school. Diane was at the store. I was alone in the house when he left. I watched him get into his car and drive away. And then I closed the door, leaned against it, and cried. Not because I wanted him to stay, but because I was mourning the life I thought I would have. The life where your husband holds your hand when you are sick. The life where you grow old together. The life I had believed in for so long. That life was gone, and I had to learn to live without it. Diane came home and found me on the floor. She did not ask what happened. She just sat down next to me and held me, and we stayed like that for a long time. The divorce was simple. Mark did not fight for anything. He did not want the house. He did not want custody of the kids. He did not want any of it. He just wanted to be free. I signed the papers in my bedroom, on the same bed where I had received the phone call that started all of this. My hands were shaking, but my heart was steady. I knew I was doing the right thing. The cancer went into remission 6 months later. The doctor said I was lucky. I told him I did not feel lucky, but I was grateful. Grateful to be alive. Grateful for my kids. Grateful for Diane. Grateful for the strength I did not know I had. Mark moved to another state. He calls the kids sometimes on birthdays and holidays. Jacob does not like to talk to him. Emma tries to be polite, but I can hear the distance in her voice. He broke something in them too. Something that cannot be fixed with a phone call every few months. I do not hate him. I used to think I should. But hate takes too much energy, and I have used up all my energy on things that matter. My kids matter. My health matters. My peace matters. He left when the doctor called my name. That is the truth of it, and I have made peace with that truth. So here I am now, sitting in my kitchen on a quiet morning with a cup of tea and the sun coming through the window. The house is different now. The kids have grown up. Jacob is in college. Emma is finishing high school. They are busy with their own lives as they should be. I live alone, but I am not lonely. I have my garden. I have my books. I have my friends. I have Diane, who still calls me every single day. Sometimes I think about Mark, not with longing, not with anger, just with a kind of quiet wonder. I wonder if he ever thinks about that day. I wonder if he ever regrets walking out when I needed him most. I wonder if he ever lies awake at night and hears me throwing up in that bathroom, knowing he did nothing to help. I will never know the answers to those questions, and that is okay. His choices are his to carry. My peace is mine to keep. If there is one thing I have learned from all of this, it is that you cannot control what other people do. You cannot make someone stay. You cannot make someone love you. You cannot make someone be brave when they are scared. But you can control what you do. You can choose to keep going. You can choose to find strength you did not know you had. You can choose to build a new life, even when the old one has crumbled. I thought my life was over when Mark left, but it was not over. It was just different, and different is not the same as broken. To anyone listening who is going through something hard, I want you to know this. You are stronger than you think. You can survive more than you believe. And even when the people who are supposed to love you walk away, you are still worthy of love. You are still worthy of joy. You are still worthy of a good life. Do not let someone else's weakness become your story. Write your own story, one day at a time, one breath at a time, one small step at a time. The laundry is still folded, the sun is still shining, and I am still here, still standing, still hopping, still believing that tomorrow might be better than today. That is my story. Thank you for listening to it. T. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed, yet please do so, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.